Hey, Scott, that was a pretty tense moment last week when Quentin spoke about how upset he was with the whole process, and Harry misunderstood what he said and what he intended to say and called him disrespectful. How did that all play out in your opinion?
Well, I can only equate it to forget you're on the television show for a second. You know, everybody's working very hard. It's a very intense moment. It's very tough on everybody involved. It's a stressful environment. So if you and I were talking and we disagreed and you were walking away, and I said, well, maybe you should just go home. Mm-hmm. You might just turn around and just go, hey, man, do we have a bigger issue? Do you want to say something to me? That's what happened. You know, Harry misunderstood where Quentin was. So you're sitting there, you're Quentin. Your best friend is sitting 2 seats down from you, and another person you really care about, Rayvon. So Rayvon and Joey and Quentin, whoever gets voted through next makes it through to next week. The final two have to go through the live Twitter save. Quentin collects himself, got up on stage. I thought he did a killer version of the Lenny Kravitz tune, Are You Gonna Go My Way? Mm-hmm. Keith loved it. J-Lo loved it. Harry didn't love it. Quentin said, thank you, sir. Ryan said, are you okay? He goes, I'm fine. Ryan goes, no, what's the matter? Quentin goes, this is whack. Mm-hmm. He didn't start off with any kind of aggression. Ryan kept after him, which is fine. And then he said how he felt. And then Harry took it completely wrong and said, if you don't like this opportunity that American Idol has provided for you, maybe you should just go home. Mm. So Quentin came back on stage and said, you misunderstood me. That's not what I meant. Mm. And I applaud Quentin for that in that moment, because I get really bored with artists who are so PC all the time.
Right.
Talking to Scott Borchetta on The Breakfast Club. You see him on American Idol every week. I often wondered, Scott, if some of today's top stars in any genre of music could actually win one of these shows.
You know what? I think you can look across any of them. Jason Derulo comes to mind. If Jason was on the show, absolutely, out of the park, has it all. Complete pop superstar.
Because when it comes down to it, really a lot of it is fan-based, how the fans react. Even though you, from a record executive perspective, are thinking, you know, this guy's got it all. Maybe the fans don't see it the way you see it.
Yeah, it's a great point, and it's something that, you know, you always try to stay on what we have talked about all season, on the edge of the mainstream. You know, sometimes you can be too far out. Sometimes you might bring something that you think, okay, people are going to love this, and they just don't. Mm-hmm. And we do have a lot of monitors in this media moment to gauge interest. And if you look at some of the most successful artists that we've signed in the last several years at the Big Machine label group, Brantley Gilbert had a huge following in the Southeast before we signed him. Florida Georgia Line already had a big following before we signed them. And you're looking for a spark. You know, obviously you want to love and believe in the music. And then when you can bring your own army, regardless of size, that's a big deal. So the fans are always going to win. The fans are always going to lead. So, you know, it's a really fine line in the A&R world, and we are students of that every day.
Yeah, along that line, you've obviously been very successful. You've been a part of some of the biggest music talent to this day. Have you learned anything new though that you use now from being on American Idol?
Yeah, I mean, I've learned so much in the last several months just being on the show. And one thing I've learned, too, because I'm always looking at the psychology of why all this works or doesn't work. And something that is so different today than 14 years ago is we have the everybody gets a trophy generation now. Mm-hmm. And there's a certain mentality of, well, I made it to the top 10, so that's good, right? It's like, well, it's good, but you didn't win anything. You didn't get a record deal. You didn't get to go on tour. So there's definitely a little bit different mentality of what this really can be with some of the contestants. So that was one of the things, like, all right. And I'll give you another example along that same line of psychology. Last week when I was talking to all of them in my mentoring sessions, I said, all right, any rivalries here? Is this guy good? Is it, anything going on? To a contestant, each one of them said, because I said, who do you have to beat to win? Every one of them said, I need to beat myself. I need to be better than I was last week. So there wasn't a rivalry. It was a completely different mindset than I think when the show started. So when I look at my other A&R opportunities, we all have to kind of forget where we came from ourselves and continue to be relevant in thought. So yeah, I've learned a ton.
Wow, great stuff. Scott Borchetta, this year's American Idol mentor, thanks for taking the time.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Talk to you next week.
Thanks.